Welcome to Take It from the Iron Woman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Iron Woman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Iron Woman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. This podcast is being sponsored by Get Loopy. On episode 41, you can hear the story of Isabel, the co-founder and CEO. Get Loopy, get a 20% discount off your first order. GetLoopy.com. Take it from the Iron Woman. We only have special guests, and today it's really meaningful. We had David Marlow with us when he was at 780 miles running. And now he has completed his goal, 1,000 miles for the year. David, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then also how did those 1,000 miles come about?
Sure. For my business, I have VLURU, which just means Versatile Guru, and it's a coaching and consulting business on personal and company transformation. A lot of what I have learned through the years from running and other things like that all apply, and definitely love to make the connection of running to personal transformation.
Whoever wants to listen to the 2 episodes we had before, we'll be mentioning that in the show notes. How did that goal of 1,000 miles come about?
I was really almost accidental. I have done it before intentionally, with that like being my running goal for the year, where January 1, I had a certain amount and I was going to run that and try and average that every day throughout the year. This really was more of a bit of serendipity, really. It's so much of 2020, right? Nothing that we planned went the way we thought it would. But I got just a horrible respiratory thing, whatever virus, whatever, early this year. It may have even been the virus, but it just put me down for a long time, and I just wasn't able to run. And then you combine that with the fact that there were any races or any opportunities were disappearing almost monthly, and there wasn't anything to run for in that sense. And so I just started running to just run again. And it was awful. I mean, I had to give myself permission, and we talked about this in our episode a little, to run a terrible run because I was running 11, 12-minute miles and doing the best I could do. I just couldn't get any breath. My lungs had really, really taken a long time to recover. My legs were fine, but I just couldn't get enough breath. And I do run walk as part of my training anyway. And I was doing significantly more walking than I normally do. I just got in a frame of mind. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to be okay with this because I've got to run and I've got to be okay with it. And it's going to be terrible for a while. And I just kept running. And there'd be days where I thought, man, I'm not getting any better. Is this ever going to get better? And then summer hit, and it's a little easier to run in the summer. And I was getting more miles in, and I just kept adding miles, and they weren't any better, just more of them. But that persistence, I felt better mentally and kept going. And then one day I decided to take a look at my phone and see where I was at on totals. And that was shortly before we talked. I was at 600 miles in like July or something. Wow. I could do 1,000 miles. And by that time, I was starting to feel better. And my VO2 max I was starting to see some metrics change too. So my VO2 max had been down in like the 30s, and now it was up in the 40s. Every couple of weeks, I was seeing it go up one. And that was firing me up. And I thought, I think I could do this. It was an aggressive goal. I mean, I had to stay on it, and I was going to have to run quite a few miles per day, but I decided to do it, and everything went great. Stayed injury free, which is important, as we know. I did develop a little hamstring issue, but it didn't keep me from running. It just wasn't as comfortable as we all would like. And then we had a funny stretch of weather here in Wisconsin where it was back into the 50s and 60s for like 8 straight days. And I'm like, now's the time. And I just went out and ran 6, 7 miles, 8 miles, whatever I could get in that day to just rack it up so that I knew I would make my goal. And sure enough, I made it last Thursday. So
fantastic. I was actually hoping that you would reach that the last time we spoke. I think this is a huge accomplishment. And for the listeners, it's actually, if you average out, it is 20 miles per week. And if you said you had like some illness, then you even ran more than 20 miles per week. That's huge. And my question is like, when you got better, did you run every day, or how is that? Maybe the listeners might wonder, like, how do we plan this out? Should we plan this out, or what are your recommendations for that?
Sure. If you're going to do it at the beginning of the year, like coming up on this year, what I did was it's about 2.7 miles a day with some rest days in. And I definitely would add rest days. It's not a good idea for most people to run every single day. The other is your schedule is going to kick in and you're just not going to have a day to run. And so allowing for that. And then I allowed for some pretty bad weather potential here in Wisconsin in December, where it might be just so cold or so bad that I could not run. I do some treadmill running, but I try to avoid it if I can. So building that in and then really testing it out and seeing, can I commit to this? Can I do that? I gave myself some milestones throughout the first part of the year, especially again, winter running January. I said, well, if I can meet this by this time, if I'm within this many miles of my average, that's good. And that'll tell me. And if I can get through March here pretty close to pace, then I'll have a chance to maybe make some miles up when the weather starts to turn. But it's a very serious commitment. And I can say that both of these years that I've run 1,000 miles changed me as a runner. I mean, I learned more about my body in both of those years, different things in each of those. But I just learned so much more about my body and myself, desire to run, like the passion I have for it changed as a result of doing it. I see it as a transformational experience, especially if you're not used to running that many miles as a routine. Those would be the things I would say, to give yourself plenty of flexibility and plenty of options, and prototype and test what works for you, and build in rest periods and some kind of cushion depending on the weather where you're at. I mean, if you're in a nice climate, you may have summer days that can't be run because it's too hot. We don't run into that very often here in Wisconsin, but we have the opposite.
It's about having a plan, probably. It's similar to the business. Having a plan, allow yourself rest days. We don't always perform 100%, even in business, especially also in running. We have to be comfortable where we are at the moment. We cannot, when we train, I know for marathon training, sometimes you're like, I'm ready. Meanwhile, you're not ready. You have to be comfortable with where you are at rather than anticipate or looking back like when you were 20 years younger, probably.
Right.
And now we come to 2021. What is your goal? What is your next step?
Yeah, I would love to, if I could do 2,000, I could get to 10,000 for total miles since I've been running again. But that is really aggressive. And I would like to run some races. So typically in a year, I'll run races. And the year I ran 1,000 miles, I didn't, so that I could just focus on this year. It was the same. So next year, I would really like to do certainly at least one, if not two half marathons, and maybe another marathon. And that's going to depend entirely on whether we have any races again or not. But that'd be my goal.
That's an aggressive goal. And would you consider a virtual marathon? I mean, I've seen some of my friends, they have done virtual marathons. I don't think I could motivate myself for a virtual marathon, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's something that, and again, I think it's cool. And I know a lot of people that have done it for very good reasons. Maybe they've run it with a friend or something like that. Nah, for me, I'd really like to do the real thing or just run.
Okay, good. We see that. And any inspirations when you said it's a transformation for the runners who might think like, they're crazy. I mean, I remember I had years when I ran 1,000 miles and I'm like, oh, you feel accomplished. Somebody who wants to aspire to do 1,000 miles, what are the inspirations that you have for them?
I would tell them that you will discover more about your body and yourself, and to have that level of commitment for something physical like that is unusual in our lives. We don't often get that. I mean, that's a lot more than I ran when I trained for a marathon as well, because you've got short speed work and things like that. This is just really running. and really just becoming one with the prospect of running. And there are no time requirements. There's no other requirements. It's really just you and running. And that mental linkage is just really special. So I would say that would be the thing to look forward to and to focus on, and allow yourself to just enter that goal and that opportunity to connect better with your body and with running in general.
Sounds to me, when I listen to you, it's like put yourself in that situation, in that space, but in a positive space. You say it's the opportunity that you can run. And sometimes I know we say, I have to run. We need to change that mindset, and we say, we're allowed to run. We get to run. I think that's where the shift is, and then it can get done.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're like, I gotta run, right, as opposed to I have the opportunity, it's a very different framing, and your body even responds differently to that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. We'll check in with you when you have completed 2,000 miles. For the 2021, I wish you good health, strong leg, and a determination. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, 1,000 miles done. When are you going to run 1,000 miles? Let's set some goals for 2021. What did you learn from 2020? What good things are you taking into 2021? Take it from the Iron Woman. We have episodes every Monday, every Wednesday. Don't miss out. There is something for everybody. And Take It From the Iron Woman is also a book. You can get it on Amazon. It's a paperback or an ebook. Don't miss out. Subscribe to the channels. Reach out. Thank you so much.